And joining us now for more on this is Democratic Congressman from California, Brad Sherman. He's a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be with you, Kate.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Will was just laying out what a deadly weekend it has been on multiple fronts. He was laying out the casualties from the Hamas-run, as claimed by the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, in Gaza, but also we know that it was a very deadly weekend for the IDF as well. 15 soldiers killed over the weekend, I think bringing it to 154 members of the IDF killed since October 7th. What do you see as the trajectory here? I mean, you have been on foreign affairs, as we were saying, for nearly 30 years. What do you see as the trajectory of this war here?
The trajectory I see is more of the same for several months. What I'd like to see is an immediate end to the fighting, with Hamas agreeing not only to release the hostages, but to relocate to Iran or some other place where they would be less of a threat to Israel. If Hamas can't agree to do that, then Israel needs to continue its operations, and that will be several months.
President Biden spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu this weekend, and according to the White House readout, they described it as this: the leaders discussed Israel's military campaign in Gaza to include its objectives and phasing. The president emphasized the critical need to protect the civilian population. I was reading it, knowing you were coming on, and wondering what you think of President Biden's, of the message coming from President Biden, where it was when October 7th occurred and the military operation began, and where it is today.
I think he's showing his experience, his knowledge, and if you take polls, you'll find that significant chunks of the American population disagree with what he's doing, but half of those think that he should be more pro-Israel and less critical of Netanyahu, and the other half who disagree think he should be less supportive of Israel. He's reflecting the American people who want to support Israel, but want to see Israel adhere to the rules of law, of war.
You think he's getting it right?
I think he's getting it right, but it's obviously a terrible situation. What would have been right is if Israel had sufficient forces near Gaza to prevent this from happening. But once it happened, there's no good solution. I think he's doing it well.
And what then is the civilian death toll in Gaza does increase? The World Health Organization, as they describe it, as it's reaching, a level of famine amongst civilians there. When you see that and you say, well, this continues for months, are you afraid or concerned about what Lloyd Austin has warning of a tactical victory will be replaced by a strategic defeat?
Look, there's no way for this to look good. I've had other elected officials saying Israel should wage war in a humane way, but I'm a student of history and I've never seen war waged in a humane way. And we've seen 60,000 Ukrainians die. Yeah. We've seen 500,000 people die in Tigray. We haven't seen this kind of coverage or demonstrations or reactions. We're all concerned about the over 20,000 Gazans who have died, and that is, of course, getting wall-to-wall coverage.
So let me ask you, did you attend Harvard and also teach at Harvard Law?
I taught a little seminar while I was there as a student. I'm no professor of law.
You were connected to Harvard. I can
yes.
say that. What do you think of what has happened on college campuses in the United States with regard to this? We're seeing real evidence of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia kind of igniting on college campuses. Obviously, Harvard has been in the spotlight because of the president's approach and how they're handling anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidences on campus, and also that testimony. What do you think?
Well, I think students are not getting a full view of the world.
Who's getting it so wrong? It's not just Harvard. It's in college campuses all over the country.
It's peculiar to see professors around the country and the world think that this is the only conflict worthy of telling their students about. Yeah, I know the folks demonstrating at my office, not a single one of them mentioned Tigray to me when 500,000 people died. It's as if these professors are focused on one thing, and I think it's simply Israel is an ally of the United States, and some of these professors therefore are anti-Israel. It's part of the anti-American ideology. Whereas in Ethiopia, It was one group of Ethiopians fighting with another group of Ethiopians, and the professors didn't mention it, the students didn't talk about it. 500,000 people died.
And what does that tell you?
It tells me that when there are Jews, there's news. It's peculiar that this one conflict, I think part of it is Qatar's funding of operations on U.S. campuses, but it's more complicated than I understand, that this one conflict generates so much attention compared to other more deadly conflicts.
It is complicated, and it's just also sad when you hear from students how they don't feel safe because of anti-Semitism. They don't feel safe because of Islamophobia that's happening on college campuses, and they're not even being given a platform to have productive conversation.
I think the Islamophobia is not on campuses. I think the anti-Semitism is on campuses. But we have seen victims of Islamophobia, not so much on campuses, but in various instances that have been tragic.
Congressman, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.
All right, and still